Carly Fiorina. This seems to me to be a cultural problem within the Republican Party. You can't lay this at the feet of Mitt Romney, to be sure, but there are a lot of women who are seeing this as fundamental disrespect for women that is part of the Republican Party. How do you see it?
Well, first of all, talk about bad timing for Mitt Romney's endorsement. Richard Murdoch said a really stupid thing, and he apologized. And Governor Romney's position on life is identical to Richard Murdoch's Democratic opponent. In other words, in that state, there are two pro-life candidates running. Richard Murdoch is clearly more extreme. And I agree, I think most people disagree with him. But here's the reason why Governor Romney is gaining among women right now. He is gaining among women. And that's because women care about the economy. Women care about the role of government. Women care about their children's education. Women care about their health care. And more women are living in poverty under this president than in any time in decades. That's why Governor Romney is winning with women.
Fair point. Rachel, one of the things you're seeing, it was Tina Fey speaking this week in New York, who seemed to me sort of strike that chord about going beyond abortion, about do you trust women enough to let them make decisions about their own lives? This is how she talked about it.
If I have to listen to one more gray-faced man with a $2 haircut explain to me what rape is, I'm going to lose my mind.
And frankly, to be fair, I mean, the Romney campaign is probably thinking the same thing. I'm going to lose my mind if we have to keep talking about rape in this election because it's association with the Republican Party that he does not want to be associated with.
Right, but then he picked Paul Ryan. They had the fight over forced ultrasounds, the government telling you need to have a medically unnecessary procedure at the order of the state, regardless of what you want, regardless of what your doctor says. And then he picked a guy who picked a forced ultrasound bill for the country. Paul Ryan was on board with that. Paul Ryan was a co-sponsor with Todd Akin of a bill to redefine rape. Paul Ryan was a co-sponsor of a bill to have personhood federally, which would not only ban all abortion, it would ban in vitro fertilization. It would ban most hormonal forms of birth control. If you wanted to avoid this fight, don't put Paul Ryan on the ticket. There's a reason that Paul Ryan has been in Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina this week.
And the Republican
and
platform talked about you shouldn't be able to do in vitro fertilization. That was in the Republican platform, which a lot of women have it difficult with. Chuck, police this a little bit in terms of what's really driving this vote and this gender gap.
Well, first of all, Virginia and Colorado are the two states outside because they're both of those states. Michael Bennet is in the United States Senate today in Colorado. He survived because of the abortion issue, because of the gender gap. He created one of the widest gender gaps in any Senate race in the country in 2010. But I want to get to a larger point that this issue, the irony here to both Akin and Murdoch, and hearing somebody who is with the NRSC, what you just said about Murdoch, is a reminder that isn't who the NRSC wanted, right? They wanted more moderate Republicans, more establishment Republicans, but they've not been able to police their own party. They can't because the base of the party will lash out at them. And this is an anchor around Mitt Romney. You know, one of the things our polling has shown is that Mitt Romney has better favorable ratings than the Republican Party overall. The Democratic Party has better favorable ratings than the Republican Party overall. I think there's a case to be made. If Mitt Romney does not win this election, it is not his, there are going to be people pointing fingers at him. I think the fault lies for the Republican Party took its image, took a turn to the right as far as some voters are concerned in the middle, that Romney himself should be able to win.
But here's the thing. Voters vote for people, not parties. Well, so Romney's on the ticket, not the Republican Party.
First, I want to defend gray-faced guys in $2 haircuts. Tina Fey might not like us, but...
Where do you get a $2 haircut?
Nowhere near Mitt Romney.
The crucial gap is a marriage gap. Republicans and Mitt Romney are doing better by almost 20 points among married people, including married women. Democrats and Barack Obama are doing better than 20 points among single women. And so that's the crucial gap here. And so that is a question of that's how you tailor who you're trying to get. And the Republicans are doing extremely well among people who want bipartisanship, among people who want some stability. And so they're doing well among that group. But the where Republicans are falling short is among that single group where Obama's doing well. Remember that Julia ad where he said, government's going to help you here, we're going to help you here, we're going to help you here. Republicans have not offered a counter help you.
I want to add one more layer to this.
I want to go to Chuck's point about the Republican right. I think one thing we've seen in this election, the right wing lost this election. Mitt Romney signaled that in the first debate when he said, you know, all this Tea Party stuff we've been running on for 2 years, well, I know I can't win the election on that, so I'm going going somewhere else. The second point is you saw something interesting in that Murdoch example in terms of how Mitt Romney responds to the pressures in his own party. He could have pulled down the ad that he made for Richard Murdoch, and he refused to pull that ad down. And the third thing is this whole discussion of I will be bipartisan. I can't help but want to point out that the Republicans for the entirety of Obama's term have said no, no, no. And so what they're really saying is we've been nasty when there's a Democrat as president, but elect a Republican and we'll be happy to work for him. This is kind of political extortion.
Well, I want to button this conversation up with what I think is an overarching point that really does frame the last 9 days. We were told this was going to be the ultimate clarifying campaign, two distinct choices. Now I feel 9 days out, a fair amount of uncertainty. There's the question of which Mitt Romney are you going to get if he becomes president, and there's the question of what's a second term for President Obama really going to look like?
Right, they both fuzz that up a little bit, but I want to talk about that last 9 days. We were talking about this the other day, David, about how, Mitt Romney has a message advantage in this respect. He gets to say the same thing for the next 9 days because all he's trying to do is win over these swing voting women, if you will. I mean, that's swing voting women. Yes, he's got to figure out how to fix the auto bailout, but he only has to talk one game. Barack Obama, because he's putting together this tapestry, this coalition, has to hit the, Chris Matthews always likes to call it the xylophone, right? Hit the note for Hispanics, hit the note for labor, hit the note for women, that he's got, it's just more complicated. And I think that that's why, we've had this debate, macro versus micro. And I think that the Obama campaign, in hindsight, look, this is how they get to 50+1. But it is the reason why you don't hear the larger message, because he can't do both right now.
Carly, quickly.
David, I just disagree with your premise. I think, yes, there have been changes in position, and I would argue there have been more changes in Obama's positions, frankly. But I think there's a very clear choice here, an extremely clear choice, between a man who is saying, I am going to run and govern with pro-growth policies, I am going to govern through bipartisan coalitions, and a president who is manifestly not governed with pro-growth policies. And, by the way, it's amazing to me that we're still saying that President Obama was such a weak president that he was unable to work his will in Washington.
Thank goodness we have 9 more days, because we need 9 more days to continue this debate. Great conversation this morning. Thank you all very much. A reminder, stay with NBC News all week for special coverage of Hurricane Sandy and, of course, the election.